Hello and welcome to Make 100 Games. This is video number 7 in my series about building a kart racer in the style of Mario Kart. In the previous video, we modified the character in the karting microgame to look like an alien, and we rigged and animated a 3D model of a squirrel. In this video, we will add the last thing to our kart racer, collectible coins. The coins will spawn around the track and we will show a sparkle effect when you collect them. Alright, let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to model our coin. So let's get rid of this plane here, or this cube. Let's add a plane. Let's move this up a little bit. Let's add a coin, or rather a cylinder. And let's hit edit mode and get rid of all the faces except the top face. And what we're going to do is let's just hide this plane here. We will actually rename this to target, and you will see in a moment what I'm going to do here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to inset this. We're going to inset it again, and we're going to push it down a little bit. So this will essentially be the edge of our coin. And what we're going to do now is we're not actually going to be modeling this coin using actual geometry. We're just going to have a plain cylinder, and we're going to create a normal map of the geometry that we want to have on the face of the coin and essentially apply the normal map to this plain cylinder. So for that, we will bring back our target. We will go to target. We will create a material for it. And we're going to open the shader editor. We're going to add, let me just make this a little wider here. This will be our normal map, and in the color space, we're going to select non-color. And now with this, let's go back here. Let's actually change to the UV editor. I just realized that I added the material to the wrong object here. So let me go back here. We don't need a material here. I don't think it matters. We need it here. So let's go ahead and do the same spiel again. Go back to the shader editor and add the image here. Well, let's just give it a different name here just so that it doesn't get mixed up. And we're going to select non-color. And now we can return over to the UV editor. So it's important to apply the material to the target. We're now going to go ahead and select the cylinder and the target. We're going to go to the rendering section and change the engine to cycles. We're going to scroll down to the bake section. We're going to select normal and select it to active. So we selected the cylinder and then the target. So we're going to be baking from the cylinder to the target. And now the extrusion is the important part. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're just going to measure. We need to know how high the extrusion on the mesh is that we want to create a normal map from. The easiest way to do this that I found is just to actually measure it. So take the measure tool here and measure. And is 0.1. So for the extrusion, 0.12 should be enough here. And we're going to hit bake. Okay, and we can already see a nice normal map of the edge of the coin's geometry. So let's go ahead and take this normal map and save it. Let's call this one coin edge normal. So next, what we're going to do, let's go ahead and close this here. Let's hide our target. Get rid of this here. Let's add some geometry to the center of the coin. So let me go ahead and add another plane this time. Hit edit mode and subdivide it. Let's subdivide it a few more times. That's enough. And what I would like to have is kind of like the letter I or like some exclamation point kind of thing. So let's select a couple of faces here and we're going to inset them. Grab and push them down, something like this. Exit edit mode, and we're again going to select our plane and our target. Everything's already set up here from the bake, and we're going to bake this. Okay, wait a minute here. Okay, now it works. Don't really know why. And in the UV editor, we should now see our new normal map from this bit of geometry here. So let's go ahead and save this as well. This will be called coin center normal. Export this and close this here. Get rid of this. We now can get rid of our target And now what we can do is we can actually create the coin. So this will be very simple geometry, just a simple cylinder. Give it the width of a coin. So yeah, something like this. Now let's UV unwrap this. So let's go into edit mode and select this edge loop here, mark with a seam here as well. Check the UV editor and UV unwrap it. And so these two circles are the face, or the faces. So let's go ahead and optimize our UV map here a little bit. So let's take this here and take this here. The side of the coin is really not important, so we're going to make this super small. Grab that, put that here. And these two faces we can just combine, we can overlap them. Let me just see here. Like this. Let's select them both. Scale them. Something like that. Select it all and export the UV layout of the coin. Rename this to coin. Let's rotate this coin around the X axis 90 degrees. Apply all transforms and let's export it. So we're just going to take our mesh, nothing more. We can even just do the selected objects. So we don't delete or any of that. We want to apply to transform. We want to apply to modifiers. We don't need an animation. We don't need an armature. And export. Now let's pop on over into Krita. Creating a file here. And let's drag in our normal maps and our UV layout. So let's go ahead and grab our coin edge, normal, and UV layout. Drag it on into Krita. Exactly. So what we want to do here is we basically want to align the normal map with the UV layout. So let me just change this to overlay so that we see both. And we want to align it so that it's nice and centered roughly. Doesn't need to be perfect, but something along those lines. So let's start with this here. Let's just align the normal map. So we'll have to scale it a little bit. Something like that. And the eye, we should probably scale down a little bit as well. Okay, let's make sure that we have the purple background for everything else. Okay, so it looks pretty all right. Maybe on this side here, the edge could be moved a little bit here. Now it's looking better. Okay, and we can hide our UV layout layer here, and we have a pretty good looking normal map for our coin. Let's go ahead and export this. We will call this coin normal. Okay, and with that exported, let's head on over to Unity. So let's first import our coin. So let's drag it into the models folder, drag the FBX in there. Let's head over to the textures and import our textures, or rather texture, just a one normal map, coin normal. Change this to normal and apply. And now let's head over to the material section and create the material for a coin. We're going to make this a nice yellow. And let's give this a bit of shininess to make it look gold or golden. And now let's apply the normal map to the material. And we can already kind of see here what that could look like. And let's go ahead and see what it looks like if we apply it to the coin. So let's drag the coin into the scene. Get away from our squirrel here. Here's our coin. You can already see we need to fix the render layers. And now let's drop in our material. And we got a pretty nice looking coin. And it looks like it has geometry, even though it's just a flat cylinder. That's the magic of normal mapping. So we have our coin in here. The next thing I want to do is I want to actually be able to spawn this coin around the scene. And for that, I have a spawner that I will share with you guys. First, let me go ahead and create a prefab from this coin. And now I will add the spawner. So let's create a game object, call it terrain object spawner, and add a script with the same name, terrain object spawner. The name of the game object doesn't matter. The name of the script is important here. Let's open the script and paste in the spawner logic. Now let's return here. We're going to add one more script. We're going to add an editor script. This will also be provided in scripts. Go to new. Let's open this up and paste the content in here. Okay, and so with this enabled here, we can already kind of see what the spawner will spawn. Yeah, so we can see here, we can configure how many rows and columns we want to spawn here. So let's say we want to have just 2 here, and we just reduce the width. So it will spawn 2 times 5 coins in this case. Let's go ahead and actually just rotate this into place, position it, go here. And now we can just assign the prefab, in this case, our coin. We're going to get rid of this one here. Go here, grab our prefab. And now if we spawn the objects, we have coins here. So we can actually also, I think, tweak these values here. So we can clear these coins and maybe do 0.5, spawn again. Okay. 1. And we can see that the coins are spawned a bit higher above the ground, so 1.2 maybe. They should be floating above the ground a little bit. 1.5, something like this. And now if we drive, we have coins in our scene, and we have an easy way to spawn them all around our scene. Now, one thing I would like to do is, these coins are kind of boring. If they're just standing there, I would like them to rotate. So I have a rotation script prepared as well that I will share with you guys that will rotate these coins. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create another empty object called shared rotation controller. Again, game object name doesn't matter. The script name is important. Let's pop into it, drop our content in there, and we're going to add one more script that I will share to the coins prefab. So let's go into our prefab. In the prefab, we're going to add a script called coin rotation. And let's give this a go. Yeah, of course, nothing's happening yet because the thing with the spawner is if you update the prefab, you have to clear the coins and spawn them again in order for this to actually have any effect. And sometimes this clearing thing doesn't work, and so you just delete it manually, spawn it again. One thing I forgot to do is to add a tag to this object here, to the shared rotation controller. So let's add a tag. The tag is called rotation controller. Let's save it and apply it. This should allow this rotation mechanism to work. And there we go. Now it looks a bit flat. Yeah, these coins are not particularly shiny. They look a bit dark. And I don't think it's because that they're not actually shiny. They are pretty shiny, but it's just that the light source, it's not hitting the coin at an angle where we can see the reflection so well. So what I'm going to do to try and make these pop a little more is I'm going to add a second light source. So let's go ahead and add a light, another direction light, and we can immediately see it's quite a bit brighter. And we don't want everything to be illuminated here. We just want the coins to be illuminated. So we can also just call this coin light. And let's go ahead and go back to our prefab. Grab our coin. We're going to put it on a new layer. Let's call it coin. Now let's go to the coin light. And we're going to only apply this light to the coin layer. Now, I know it says here that culling mask should not be used, and you should instead use the rendering layers, but I tried this and I could not get this to work with rendering layers. I couldn't find the setting that it is talking about here. If you know how to do this, if you have a way to do this, you have a video that explains how to do this, please link it in the comments. But for now, this will do. So let me just make sure here that the light is actually doing something. I don't see it actually having any effect. Yeah, of course, because again, I have to delete the coins and add them again, because I changed the prefab. So let's go back here and spawn our coins again. And we can already see that there is a difference here between before and after. And if we toggle light, it's different. And now, of course, let me just see what it looks like when they rotate, because I just really want them to be a bit bright and shiny. So it looks all right. What you can do now is if you want the light to hit differently for these coins, you can, of course, it's a directional light. It doesn't matter where it's positioned. What matters is where it's pointing. It doesn't matter whether the light is above the coin, so to speak. It really just matters where it's pointing. So you can just imagine there's a light right next to the coin. And the important thing is where it's pointing. So if I have it point up, then we might see more of this kind of glimmery golden shimmer from our perspective here. Yeah, and it's starting to look much better. Could probably still be a bit shinier. We can also just go to the material and try to make it a bit shinier, even though it's already looking pretty good here, but we can make it a little smoother or a little more metallic. And give that one a go. And now it's starting to really look like a nice coin worth collecting. Yep, that's looking pretty good. So the next thing we want to do is we want to actually be able to collect the coin, have it disappear, and maybe show a little sparkle animation. So let's go ahead and make the coin disappear first and foremost. So for the coin collection, I will also provide a script that automatically removes the coin when the player runs into it. So let me just go to our player here, and we're going to add a script called coin collector. Okay, before this will work, the coins will have to have a collider and make it a trigger. Okay, and we have to again respawn the coins because we changed the prefab. So let's spawn them. Just double check here that we have our collider. Let's test this. And yes, we are able to collect the coins. And if we test this again, we should have a little speed boost when we collect the coins. We should start getting a bit faster. Let's let the other guy go first. Yes, we are able to catch up with him when we collect the coins. So we get a temporary speed boost. This is all part of this coin collector script when we collect the coins. Now let's add the particle effect. So let's find our player here. And let's go ahead and create a new particle system. Okay, so with the particle system, let's go ahead and start modifying what we are emitting here. So let's first go to the emission here and just emit a handful of particles. Make them yellow. Reduce the speed, and actually when we reduce the speed, we can see this might actually be enough, or maybe 2. As always, this requires a lot of playing around. Let's make them fade out over time. So let's go ahead and find the color over lifetime. Select it, open it. And somewhere in the middle here, make the alpha fade out. And towards the end as well. Actually, maybe a little earlier already, like this. That's good. I think that's actually pretty all right for first step. Yeah, that's pretty okay. Let's add a second particle system. We'll make this one kind of be a big, blotchy, yellow flash. So we're going to go to the emission, just make 1. And we're going to make the start speed 0. And we're going to make it fade out over time as well. So we're again going to do color of lifetime. Grab this here. And we're going to check the shape here. And we really want it just for debugging here. Let me actually bring the speed back a little bit again so that we can see where it's actually spawning. And we really just want it to spawn here in the middle. We can reduce the angle here, make that funnel more narrow. So it's basically just firing straight up. That's good. Let's make it a lot bigger. To get it bigger, actually, we can go to the render and actually also choose a different particle. There is one that's bigger. and a bit blotchier. So let's leave that one as is. And we're going to make it bigger still. So we're going to go with start size. That's pretty good. And we're going to reduce this again. And now we see a nice flash. So together with this, we get a nice little sparkle effect. Let's go one step further. Let's open up Krita, make a new file, make it small. Let's take our brush and let's grab just a normal brush here. Nice and big. Let's create a rough kind of star shape here. Something like this. Let's give it a style. Nice and yellow. Normal opacity 100, something like this. And let's blur this a little bit here. Something like this. Remove the background and let's export this. Make sure that we store the alpha channel. Head back over to Unity, go to our textures and import this. And make sure we select alpha as transparency. Let's create one more particle system. And in this one, let's go down to our render. And actually, before we do that, we go here and create a material called sparkle. The shader for this will be a particles standard unlit. And we're going to change the rendering mode to additive and leave color mode and multiply. And with this material ready to go, we're going to go back to our particle system, go back to our render. And we're going to take our particle material and put it in here. And now we see our little stars. Let's now make these emit less, make them slower, make them also a bit smaller. We really just want small, subtle little sparkles. So let's go here and change the color over lifetime again, just to fade them out. If we really want to get fancy, we can actually also give them a bit of a spin here. And let's also scale them down over time. So there should be size over lifetime. Let's go here and give it a nice decreasing size. And if we now play all three particle systems at once, we should get kind of a nice little sparkle effect. Something like this when we collect the coin. I think that's pretty okay. Let's go ahead and create an empty game object that will essentially group all of these particle systems and call it collection effect. Let's drop all these in there. And let's take this and put it inside of our player. So I think this is a decently well positioned here. And now, if you remember the coin collector script, we should have the sparkles object here. And this can now be this collection effect. Now, before we test this, let's make sure and turn off looping everywhere so that it doesn't play forever, but really only when we want it to. And let's also make sure that we turn off play on awake. We don't want it to play when we launch the game. We only want it to play when we collect the coin. Let's give this a quick test here. So we have an effect that's playing. But it's a bit delayed. So let me just back up here, collect one coin. So a couple things. So first of all, let me just make them loop here real quick. And one thing here is this one here should really just emit once. And let's try this again. Let's make sure all these are no longer looping. Okay, so that's better. But we still have this one big flash that kind of happens very delayed. So there is a fix for this that I have as well. So what we're going to do here, I believe it's this one. Yes, it's this one. And what we're going to do here is we're actually under emission going to put in 0. And we're going to emit this one manually in code and then start playing it. So in our coin collector, we're going to make the following change. We're going to add one property, the particle system that we will manually trigger or manually emit. And down below where we emit the particles, we're going to make the following change. We're basically going to check if the particle system that we are looping through right now is not null. And if it's not the system we want to manually emit, we're going to just do the regular play. And if, however, the particle system that we're looping through is not null and it is the system we want to manually emit, we're going to manually call emit and then call play. This should get rid of the delay. So let's go to our cart, go to our coin collector, and the system to manually emit is the second system here. Play this one again. And let's see. There we go. Looking much better. The other sparkles are going on for a little too long though, so let's reduce the duration here. So to reduce the lifetime here, we're just going to reduce the duration and the start lifetime. That should do the trick. So of course it could still be shorter, but it's pretty okay. So we can drive through our coins, get a nice little bit of sparkling going on, get a little speed boost. So the one thing I kind of want to do at the end here is our particle effect is clipping through the train. So there's a fix for that as well. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the camera. We're actually going to create a new camera, an additional camera. We will call it effects. Let's go ahead and clean up our scene a bit and just create a camera's parent object. Drag this in there. Drag our main camera in there as well. We could even put our virtual camera in there. And the effects camera will be a overlay. And we can now go to our main camera. And there is this camera stack. We're going to add the effects camera to it. So this means that whatever the effects camera renders is rendered on top of the main camera, and it is basically composited together. So let's take our main camera. And we're going to create a culling mask, or rather we're going to take our particle effects and we are going to put it on another layer. So let's create another layer and we will call it effects. Let's again take this and we will apply it to this and to all the children. We will go to our camera, our effects camera, and we will call everything except for effects so that it only renders the things that are on the effects layer. And our main camera will not render effects. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. A little surprising result here. Okay, so one thing I forgot to do is we actually need to make this camera a child of the main camera because otherwise it will just stand still as I drive. We can see here it's just standing still. And then whatever it sees we will not see anymore. So let's just make this a child. Just double check our setup here. We have a overlay camera. Our main camera should not render the effects. Otherwise we render them twice and they'll be clipped again. And our effects camera should render the effects. And let's give this a go. Looking much better. It's no longer clipping into the ground. The effects are still running a bit too long here, but that's okay. I think they're actually looping again. Let me just make sure the looping is off. So again, here we are on the effects layer. Let's make sure they're not looping. And let's give this one a shot here. That's looking pretty good. Okay, So that about wraps it up. We created a coin, added a spawner, and created a particle effect that plays when we collect a coin. This was the final video where I showed you how to build a kart racer. There will be one more video next week, but it's less about building new features and more about doing some much needed performance optimization. So if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe and check back next week. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this series. Leave a comment below if you liked it and if you would like to see more content like this. Also remember to like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and maybe tell a friend if you know someone that might want to learn about game development. See you around.